Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. It's a pleasure being with you live again. Shannon, isn't it wonderful?
It is. Straight out of Fun Drive. Thank goodness, Lord Almighty, it is over.
It is over, and we are here to take your call. Let me tell our audience.
Thank you for helping us out during the Fun Drive.
Absolutely.
You pulled us through.
You did pull us through. We appreciate everything that you guys have done for us over the last 3 weeks of Fun Drive. And notice we changed things up a bit to try to get a little bit more of our engagement in there with you as we ask. We also try to continue to give. So it was a pleasure. But I tell you what, both Shannon and myself, we really, really, really missed you.
Yes, we certainly did.
So we want to know that you're still out there, and we want to hear from you.
And the phone lines are back in the control room once again. So no longer going out to Pledge Central. You're coming straight to me. So when you call 713-526-5738, I'm going to answer. So
you see, you get to get the personal voice. You get to hear the voice, right, Shannon?
The voice.
The voice. But hey, folks, it's going to be a great show. But again, before we tried to thank everybody on air. If you didn't get a thank you on air and somehow we missed it, I missed it or whatever, drop me a line either on Facebook or drop me a line at my, just go to egbertowillies.com or politicsdoneright.com and send an email or send a tweet or whatever. By the way, I always monitor those things and I always get back with you. But folks, listen. Today we discuss the election 2016, election 2016. Yes, we will discuss Bernie Sanders and other presidential candidates, but most importantly, we will discuss what is at stake in 2016. In the middle of the hour, we will hear from former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner. She was the senator for Ohio 25th District. She was a former supporter of Hillary Clinton, who then decided to support Bernie Sanders. I'm going to be doing a whole lot of talking today, hopefully answering a whole lot of questions or hearing your views as well. I just want to say that, as usual, everything, the way we operate, remains the same. Before I get to the program, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, there are several of the shows that I love. I love The Monitor with Mark Bebawi on Mondays at 7 p.m. I love Think Wing Radio with Mike Honig at 9 p.m. I love Partisan Gridlock with Jeff Berg on Fridays at 3 p.m. And I also love Jazz Latino, Afro-Cuban Latin Jazz. It's best. And it's being hosted by the one and only Juan Flores, my buddy.
I heard that show for the first time this week, and it is something special. You were right. It is really something.
And he also does a show on Thursdays. I think he starts at noon, so either noon or 11, and he has a 3-hour stint of it. You're gonna have to remind me to fix that up for you if you're listening Juan. But anyhow, check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is listener-supported public community radio, so please remember that. If you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by the corporatocracy. Folks, this is KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston, Texas. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your thoughts. Let's talk. I will also be following our hashtag. Let me make sure I have that up on Twitter, and the hashtag Politics Done Right. And I follow that in case anybody wants to tell me something and don't want to say it on the phone, or maybe you're in another state, maybe you're in another planet, maybe you're in another country. I respond to you as well. You can listen to the live stream or listen to the podcast, the vlogcast at the kpft.org. And of course, we keep all versions at politicsdoneright.com. And you know what time is approaching, my dear people. You know what time is approaching.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Now, let me tell you where I am at. Where we are at, I believe most of us are. We are to some extent, I don't want to say infuriated, but we are mad and we're not going to take it anymore. Anyhow, we don't get mad. We get even. We don't get mad. We vote. We don't get mad. We make things happen. Anyhow, the title of the blog of the week is Election 2016 is more than Sanders, Clinton, Trump, Rubio, Cruz. Folks, yes, we talk a whole lot. We talk a whole lot about these presidential candidates, but it's a whole lot more. We have to remember that it's a lot more, but it goes this way. There was a time in America when there was an American dream. I had the American dream. For all practical purposes, I personally feel I've lived the American dream. A lot of people don't have that opportunity to live the American dream because we have taken it away progressively over the last several years. The vast majority of Americans to most people, that American dream is dead. Yes. For the top 1%, life is heavenly. For the top 1%, life is the American dream. For the top 10%, life seems like the American dreams. Not is, but seems like the American dream. It can be busted quite easily. For the top 20%, the American dream seems to be attainable if only. But for all the rest, life is a grind. The American dream remains that elusive thing people used to think about. Everyone else lives vicariously through their TV screens, their iPhones, their droids, their iPads. What if I could have that? What if I could have what I'm seeing on that iPhone? What I'm seeing on that iPad? What I'm seeing on the TV? What I'm seeing at the movies? What if that could be me? We're living vicariously through others for our own dreams because our own dreams are almost now unattainable. Every year, we are told that this election is the most important election ever. More so than ever, this time it is more real than ever. Election 2016 will decide if the middle class survive as we know it. America bought into Ronald Reagan's voodoo economic way back in the 80s. They voted for an optimistic candidate who promised them a new morning, a new beginning. America decided to forego math for a dream. Again, we forgot early on when we elected Ronald Reagan that there was such a concept, that there was such a science, there was something called math. We destroyed our dream for a dream. This man was going to cut taxes, increase defense spending, the benefactors of which were the wards of death, destruction, and unfettered profits, the defense industry. After America's treasure was pilfered by Reagan and subsequently Daddy Bush, America bought into Clinton and the DLC's triangulation. Americans were not encouraged to fight for what was right. They were encouraged to support what was less evil. Instead of draconian cuts in the aggregate to middle-class centric policies, we got marginal cuts. Of course, in the meantime, we were busy giving away the store by deregulating. Prosperity seemed to be flowing throughout the middle class. Unfortunately, we were conned. As economist Richard Wolff points out in Capitalism Hits the Fan, they gave us a ton of credit. Oh, we could buy anything we want. We got the economy kicking, man. We bought everything that we wanted. On credit, it gave us that semblance of prosperity. Yes, we had that semblance of prosperity. That semblance of prosperity never went away. Democratic Texas Senator Lloyd Bentsen knew it well, even back in the 80s. In his VP acceptance speech in 1988, he famously said, it easy enough. It is easy enough to create an illusion of prosperity. All you have to do, again, all you have to do is write hot checks for $200 billion a year. That is what that's what the Reagan and the Bush administration did, folks. The semblance of prosperity. Anyhow, the pilfering continued under G.W. Bush. Have you ever noticed that we can find billions to fight wars of convenience, but cannot find a few millions to clean up the water that is poisoning our children and fellow Americans? Vis-a-vis Flint and many other places. It's not only Flint. We only hear about Flint with the lead in the water. They tested those. But all those old cities around America, all those dilapidated cities that are going to you know where because of what the plutocracy has done to our cities and our towns. Do you think Flint is really isolated? Have you ever wondered how trillions were found to bail out insurance companies and banks, but a man who owes $1,500, $1,500 in student loans can be arrested and then made to pay his loan, pay the thousands of dollars of interest on that loan, and also pay the cost of his own arrest? Welcome to America. Welcome to America. Anyhow, Americans have methodically ceded their power to politicians owned by the plutocracy, owned by corporations, owned by the wealthy, owned by the oligarchy. They do this by supporting politicians that are bought and paid for. You know that. I repeat that all the time. Many people know that, but I have to say it. Yes, they're paid for. But it gets worse, folks. More importantly, we have allowed these bought politicians to dumb us down. We no longer get civics in school. Again, we no longer get civics in school. Do you remember? Does the young folks even know what civics is? I bet they don't.
Well, we don't call it civics, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we don't learn how to be good Americans anymore.
Yeah, they of course do indoctrinate you in certain ways, but,
As long as the indoctrination doesn't involve the plutocracy.
Well, who do you think writes it down?
There you go. So continuing with the blog, Shannon, think about this, Shannon. This is important. We no longer get civics in school anymore. Do you really think that is an accident? We no longer make education affordable. Do you think that is an accident? No, they want to dumb you down. They're doing a good job of it. Because, think about it, we elected Reagan without doing our math. We elected many of these guys without doing our math. The plutocracy just wants people educated enough to serve, educated enough to not buck the system. We do not want people who think through too many levels of indirections. Why? Because they run the risk of enough Americans finding out that they have been had, they have been conned. That is the reason why, my friends. That is the reason why. The con needs to be fed. The problem is that all the easy pickings have already been had. Do you know why the right is becoming more nativist and more racist? That in itself is a con. Because that isn't America. That isn't the masses. That isn't your neighbor. That isn't all the people you know. That's not your friends. But they need that to be that way for you. They've got to con you one more time. You know why they have to con you? Now they have to con you. In the aggregate, they have already pilfered the other. So who's going to be the new other? Now they must come for you. But they must deflect the reason for your pain. Remember, your pain, your angst, your failure, your unemployment, your underemployment, your financial problems are not caused by the other. The cause is that government-sanctioned plutocracy. So here is the deal. And I ask you to do this. Look in the mirror. The person you see is the only solution we have. The person looking back at you must make the right choices, not only in presidential races, but throughout the ballot. From your city council to the state house, to the Congress, to the White House, it is time to elect bold candidates that promise to take back the country from corporate control. Let me be frank. It's all you. It's all about you. It is you who have the power to make a difference. It is you whose vote count. It is you. Don't let anybody take that away from you. You have the power. You are the person that can really make the change. I talk a whole lot on the radio. I talk a whole lot in blogs. I talk a whole lot on the internet. I talk a whole lot everywhere with one specific message. Empowerment of you. Empowerment of us all. Because, again, we have been taught that we are less than, we're not capable of, and we have to take whatever they give. Every election cycle, we have a tendency to repeat the same. This election cycle, let's take a bold step out. Let's take our country back, not in the form of being disillusioned, not in the form of being misinformed, not in the form of making an uninformed vote, but actually saying, you know what, this is my darn country, and I am going to take it for real. But it's when I say it's you, it's not the singular you, it's the plural you, meaning us all. We have got to do it. Folks, this is KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston, Texas. Please remember, this is a call-in show. Give us a call, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. The phones are starting to light up. So we have phone lines open, so please give us a call. I think Shannon probably wants to get to the weather before I get to the first call. So Shannon is giving me that look. So Shannon, you win.
Why, thank you, Egberto. It is currently 78 degrees and bright, sunny day today. Tonight, expect a few clouds and area patches of fog. Low tonight of 61 degrees. Mixture of clouds and sunshine in the forecast for tomorrow with a high of 81 degrees. And let's take a brief look at traffic around town. It's pretty light in most areas. There's a few accidents to report, including on the Katy Freeway inbound at Willcrest. An accident is affecting the left shoulder to right shoulder, backing up traffic to Highway 6. And there's also an accident on the Katy Freeway eastbound at West Beltway 8. That's affecting the left shoulder in that area, contributing to that area of heavy traffic. And on the North Freeway outbound at Ritchie, a multiple vehicle accident is affecting the left lane and shoulder, backing up traffic to Greens. And on the East Freeway outbound at the East Tex Freeway, a heavy truck wreck is affecting the exit ramp in that area, backing up traffic to Shepherd. Slow going as always on the West Loop from Forness to the Katy Freeway in both directions and northbound to Irvington. That's a look at your afternoon commute and your weather. I'm Shannon McCurchie. Back to you, Egberto.
Muchas gracias, Shannon. Muchísimas gracias. You know, Shannon, I have a new respect for you. This morning I came in and I did Open Journal, and before Open Journal, actually, I didn't do it on Open Journal, before Open Journal, and I had to do the traffic. You've just earned a huge bit of respect from going from that screen to that thing. So that's a great job, my dear. But anyhow, let's go to línea número uno. Scott, come on in, my dear friend.
Me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, I voted Tuesday.
Excellent.
And Republicans have not convinced me that Hillary Clinton murdered Vince Foster. I did vote for her, and that was a last-moment decision. I have reasons I could vote for either one.
Right.
I had already made up my mind at least a week ago about all the local races, because I think those are going to be more important than in Houston. I think Texas could very likely vote on the losing side on the presidency in November.
Well, let me tell you something. I don't know what side Texas is going to vote on, to tell you the truth, because
Republican.
well, I am the forever. Before I continue, I want to tell folks that we do have lines open. Remember, you're coming directly to the studio now. You're not going to Pledge Central, so give us a call at 713-526-5738. I would really love to hear from you. 713-526-5738. By the way, we also always get a whole lot of men calling in, so I would love to hear from women, including women who can tell me if, for those people who want Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton, is there an issue with is there a gender thing that somebody wants to talk about, whether it's time for the first lady to be the I'd like to cover all these different avenues wherever possible. But going back to what you're saying, Scott, as far as who and what are we going to vote for in November, ultimately in November, I am an eternal optimist, and I honestly believe when America makes that switch, and that is some of the tipping point things that I think folks in the activist world like myself and thousands across the country are hoping for, that when the tipping point comes, it comes as an avalanche.
Well, I don't see enough of a constituency ready for a populist revolution, and I would have more faith in it if it had started with an off-the-air election. Remember, the Democrats undid George W. in
2006.
2006.
Yes.
Republicans held Obama at bay 2010 and 2014. I think presidential elections are just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, Scott, I think you're right, but let me tell you where I go in that respect when you say you don't see that populist uprising yet. If you take a look at how things happen, right, it is very, very early right now, right? And things have a type of way of metastasizing at a later time. In other words, if you look at geometric progression, right, it's 1 + 1 is 2 + 2 is 4 + 4 is 8 + 8. Those numbers start out very small, but then the geometric progression goes up, and then it happens really quickly. I mean, if you keep doubling in the initial, if you draw it on a chart, the initial is very small and slight, even though it's doubling. But when that thing starts to kick in, it really takes off. And I tell you something, if a message begins to categorize, and I think it can actually occur, and that's what a lot of us in the activist space are trying to do, and that is, remember what my blog was talking about in the beginning, and that is, we don't have civics anymore. We don't get engaged anymore. We've lost, many people have lost hope or lost the belief that they can make a change. And when that message comes in where people sit back and say, yeah, I think maybe this is a time, it happens. It happened all around the world. I mean, is it the time now for it to happen? I hope so. I could be wrong, but I hope so. I'm going to do my part to hope that is a time that we get the vast majority of people out there in the world or in America saying, I have had it, and we are going to really be a populous country, because you know what? The survival of from a mathematical standpoint, the survival of the country depends on it. Go ahead.
Well, I do think a big thing before us is a right-wing propaganda machine that's gotten increasingly clever, and that's why I brought up the thing about Vince Foster. Mm-hmm. I like to give them a hard time about all their worst suppositions.
Right.
Make them defend things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm afraid the right-wing propaganda machine for many people is the elephant in the living room that nobody wants to talk about.
Right.
I don't hear politicians talking about it very much. So I think it'll have to be people outside Hillary's or Bernie's campaign who do most of the talking about it.
Right. Well, what is going to take, though, Scott, is folks, all of us doing our part, including yourself. You're doing a good job of it. You're listening to these shows, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to do what you got to do where you got to do it, because that is what it's going to take. So, listeners, please do remember this is a call-in show. The number is 713 526-5738. We're no longer in fund drive mode, so once you give a call, you'll be right there listening to Shannon. So again, that number is 713-526-5738. But Scott, let me just tell you one thing. Everybody needs to follow your lead. Everybody needs to go out there and vote. Everybody needs to choose your candidates. You know, we can't tell you who to vote for. What we can tell you to do is to make that effort to educate yourself and ensure that your vote, I hate to just say your vote count, because all votes count whoever you vote for. But please do remember to educate yourself and make a wise choice. Don't allow anybody to convince you of something that you feel in your gut is wrong. Look, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Scott.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful day, my friend. Okay, I think I have John on the other line. John, come on in.
Good afternoon, Egberto. How you doing?
All right, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to a big win for Bernie Sanders on Saturday. I've been predicting it ever since I saw the poll in mid-January.
You sure
Overtime
did.
Politics, where he was within 4 points. I knew it was going to be close. Other polls that have come out recently confirm the closeness of the race and the momentum that Bernie Sanders will build from the victory in Nevada will help him immensely.
Right.
I don't know about in South Carolina, maybe a few points, but it'll help him on Super Tuesday.
Right.
And also the new polling out, PPP has him up by 7 points in Massachusetts, 116 delegates, tied with Georgia. The only one that has more on Super Tuesday is in Texas. And he's winning hearts and minds throughout the country.
Right.
And so I'm really looking forward to Saturday. And
so you really think he's going to pull it through on Saturday?
Yeah, I do. I think that the momentum is with him, and I also think that caucuses are really hard to poll.
Right.
But I just feel that what's happening, and I feel the polling is underestimating the number of independents that are available to vote.
Right.
In Iowa, the 20% of the turnout was independents.
Mm-hmm.
In the Democratic primary. In New Hampshire, it was 40%. And so, what I'm seeing in all these polling is in PPP polling is between 10 and 15%, and I just think he's going to exceed that massively.
Right.
That's what's been going on, and I think that some of the biggest problems for him actually winning the Democratic nomination are the fact that there are so many superdelegates, and
right.
I encourage people to go on a Move On petition which basically says, that the superdelegates should let the voters decide. I know I talked about this on your show 2 Saturdays ago.
Right.
And this is very important. I'm going to call Joaquin Castro my representative. Superdelegates, they are the elite.
Exactly.
And the elite is really for Hillary, and it's really disconcerting to me because, I thought the people were supposed to decide.
Well, actually, that is so true. That is so true. The people should be the one deciding. But let me put you on hold right now because I have Senator Turner on line 6 that I want to get to the senator. I don't want to have her hold on. I know she has a very busy schedule. So let me put you on hold, John, and let me get to Senator Nina Turner. Senator Turner, how are you doing today? Senator Turner?
Oh, yes, I'm fine. How are you?
Great. Look, thank you very much for coming on to Politics Done Right here in Houston, Texas. I understand you're in Georgia right now with the campaign?
I just left Georgia. I'm actually back in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, you are back in Ohio.
Yes.
Okay, well, great. Well, look, let me first tell you, I met you at Netroots Nation 2015, and there was one interesting thing that I remember well at Netroots Nation, and that was after you gave your speech, the person that followed you paused and they said, "Why do I have to follow Senator Nina Turner?" Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes, and so luckily I started the show before you got on, so I don't have to say why must I follow Senator Nina Turner. How are you doing today?
Awesome. I'm fine, but it's really great to be with you and glad you have this platform.
Well, absolutely. I'm glad to have you. As you know, we're here in Houston, Texas, and we just started our primaries yesterday, or on Tuesday. I'm sorry, on Tuesday we started our primaries. So
early voting.
Early voting.
Early voting. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So people, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on early is so that you could talk to people. You know, we're to tell them things like, how comes you switched from supporting Senator Clinton to supporting Bernie? I've never quite got a full response when I saw it. So why don't you tell our audience about that?
Well, you know, I wouldn't call it a switch, and I've been supporting the Senator Sanders, that is, for a number of months now. Let me just say that when I juxtaposition my life story with what Senator Sanders is fighting for, it pretty much was a no-brainer for me. And I know people want to get caught up in a switch because that's how the media has framed
exactly.
it. I don't call it that. I don't consider it that. I call it I was making up my mind along the way. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am under no obligation to support, you know, one person or another. But when it really came time to that heart-soul agreement, it really was Senator Sanders. And just so your listeners, in less than 60 seconds, you know, I grew up in a single-parent household. My parents got married young, and it didn't work out. And my mother died at the young age of 42 years old with her dreams deferred, as Langston Hughes asked about in his poem.
Right.
And for me, being a first-generation college graduate, it meant so much. And my mother never lived to see any of the great things that I've been able to accomplish through public service. But I know because of her spirit and her memory that I continue to fight for those people who do not have a voice. When I really got a chance to study Senator Sanders, and I got to admit that my husband was one of the people who said to me, baby, I really think you should listen to him. He has the same righteous indignation that you have about public service and about helping people who are less fortunate. And I did do just that. And when he talks about raising the minimum wage so that people who work 40 hours a week can have a living wage, when he talks about universal health care as a right in this country, and when he talks about the fact that we need to make sure that our young people are not saddled with debt when they graduate from college. You know, most college students collectively have $1 trillion worth of debt. And that's not right. It's really about our investment. When I started to think about what he wanted to do for this country and my life story, my heart was convicted. And I supported Senator Bernie Sanders. And that is the quick version of that story. And thank you so much for asking and not just going along with the mainstream media narrative. They need to have that kind of tension, and that's why they continue to say the switch.
Now, this is Pacifica Radio, KPFT, Politics Done Right. We only do things here real, my friend. We only do things here real. So the other the other thing that gets me is I wrote a piece for Daily Kos a few weeks ago, and it was called "Incrementalism is Dead," meaning that if we continue with incrementalism, the middle class is dead. My question to you, do you agree with that, and do you agree that that is the reason why bold moves need to be made at this point in time?
I absolutely do, and I'm going to go back. I wrote down what you said. I want to go back and read your article, but I'm so glad that you wrote that. It is, and this is the example that I like to give. If somebody is suffering, and let's just use starvation, if somebody's hungry, just because I want your listeners to kind of visualize this, and they need help, the last thing they want is somebody to talk to them about incrementalism, that I'm going to do this in an incremental way. I'm going to help you out. They don't want to hear that. People need help. And so to the extent that vast amounts of wealth in this country, even though Americans are very productive, Americans work hard, the working poor, they're called the working poor for a reason. The middle class is barely the middle class in the 21st century. And it's not because people are not working hard, but the system is rigged. And so almost all the new income is going to the top. And the people who consider themselves middle class and the working poor forget about it. And so that is not fair. If you were to ask people, is that fair that people work so hard in this society and they still can't make ends meet? No, it's not fair. And so you need a leader on all levels of government. Don't get me wrong, but you especially need a president of the United States of America who's going to call that kind of stuff out and who will put forth policies that will allow other people, that will give the opportunities for other people to rise and for them to lift their family. So, yes, I agree with you. Incrementalism is dead.
Now, with regards to what I try to tell folks, and before you came on, the blog of the week, the way we do the show here is we have a blog of the week where I read one of the blogs that I write for the week, and get it to the audience. And one of the things that I try to say was it was an attempt to empower people to not just accept the status quo. But the other thing that I spoke about is having looked for everybody to look in the mirror, because that's who's going to make the change. Now,
that's right.
Everybody knows that Bernie Sanders or whomever it is that you think would make the best president cannot do it on their own. Why don't you tell our folks how and what, assuming that you believe Bernie Sanders is the person that best speaks to the needs of the middle class right now, how would you tell people, what else does he need other than getting a him elected for him to be able to realize not his dream, but America's dream?
Well, thank you for that question. And certainly Senator Sanders is not running for himself. He's running for America. I want folks to think about, why is it that a senator from Vermont would even dare take on this task? It's not for him. He could have stayed comfortable in the Senate and continued to fight the fight. But no, he knows that in this country, the people of this country, the working poor, of which he's not afraid to say, and the middle class, they need a champion. They need someone that's going to take it to the status quo, that's going to fight against this rigged economy, this rigged political system. We're now under Citizens United. Even before Citizens United, money was so slowly becoming speech, and the Supreme Court just really locked that in under the Citizens United and also the McClellan case. But you know what? You are absolutely right. It's not just voting is one phase of this thing. In a representative democracy, we have to continue to be vigilant and we have to be involved, because if we don't, then that change will not come. Change comes from the grassroots, not the grass tops. And if we think about any great movement in this country, we name it. Revolutionary War comes to mind. You know, where the 13 colonies said, and I know your listeners know the history of this country, but they basically said to King George, oh, no, we're not going to take this anymore. It's unfair. You know, what's happening is unfair, and we want to go out on our own. King George didn't just sit back and say, okay, you can go on your own. No, he put up a fight, and we had the Revolutionary War. If it weren't for them, the founders, the people in our country during that time, the 1700s, fighting against the big powers that be, the status quo, we would not be the United States of America. Now, the fact that they were racist and sexist is a whole other story, but the fact that we are the United States of America. If you take the abolition of slavery, we are in Black History Month. We reflect on how far people of African descent have come in this country. But if we did not have our foreparents who were willing to fight against the aggression of slavery, African Americans would not be free. They fought against the status quo. The system said that African Americans were chattel, that they were not intelligent, that they were property. But we fought, against the status quo. We could use women's suffrage, too, as another example. In this country, women couldn't vote, but they fought against the status quo. Our gay lesbian sisters and brothers in this country now have the right to marry, the 40-hour work week. So I just want your listeners to take any great movement, anything that we enjoy in this country, as a right, and sometimes a privilege in this country, came by way of the sweat, blood, and tears of people who were bold enough to fight against the system. And we need that same spirit to emerge again. And that is what Senator Sanders is talking about, an America that works for everybody, where the people are in control. And that's why he's not taking money from Wall Street. He's taking money. The average donation is $27 by the people, so that when he wins, the only interest group that he has to answer to are the voters, the people of the United States of America.
Now, one of the important things that he said in the debate, and it was quite interesting, if you take X amount of money from all these different interests, specifically, let's say Wall Street, every American citizen has to ask the question, if somebody gives you money, honestly, and even the average American citizens, we're given, or whomever is given Bernie Sanders money, or given him because they expect something out of him. In this case, a middle-class life. What is a corporatocracy asking for when they give you a few $1 million? Now, I want to touch the elephant in the room, my dear friend, and it goes this way, Senator. Bernie Sanders and the black vote, Bernie Sanders and the Latino vote, Bernie Sanders and the Asian vote. I want to hear, because I know everybody knows right now that there's a comfort level between these different demographics with Hillary Clinton. By the way, I promise for all my Democratic friends, for all my Republican friends, this show isn't a show of disparaging anybody whatsoever. However, there's one thing that I want to get across. What is the affinity that some may have towards a Clinton, and is it justified?
Well, it is really about familiarity. It's just being familiar. I mean, Senator Sanders is a senator from Vermont who did not have a national profile before he decided to run for president of the United States. Those are the facts. The secretary has had the advantage of having a national profile from the moment her husband was elected to become the president of the United States of America in the 90s to now. So from her service, as a first lady, to being the senator of New York and to being the secretary of state. So she has that advantage. Now, I'm going to put that right there. I think every voter, no matter who they are, should expect from their elected officials to earn their vote every time that they run. So this is not about what people who are the voters owe the person that's running. It really is what the person who's running owes to the people.
Exactly.
And particularly, if I could just say, to the African American community, because it's been our community that folks are talking about are the firewall, and people of color, as you just mentioned, are going to vote.
That is actually insulting
for the secretary. People should have to earn our vote. They don't own our vote, and we have no allegiance to anybody in terms of making sure that the things that we care about are taken care of and advocated for and fought for. And so I just want the vote. I want your listeners, no matter if they're Democrat, Republican, or somewhere in between, just to have an open mind and just to know that as citizens of this country and as voters of this country, that the people who are running are obligated to earn their vote. And it's not the other way around. It just makes me sad. It breaks my heart that African Americans are being considered somebody else's firewall.
Right. That's what I said. It pretty much. That's an insulting concept, and that
it is.
A lot of people in the media doesn't see it as an insult. It actually has plantation connotations, and it seems like many people don't want to say that, but it has plantation connotations.
It does. And can I say that I was in South Carolina? I talked to an elder when I visited a church in South Carolina, and she said to me, and she's an older woman, she's in her, she's seasoned, and she said to me that every time she hears that, it makes her think of sharecropping.
Exactly. Well, that's what it is, Senator Turner. That is exactly what it is.
Yes, sir.
Now, before you go, I want to ask you a big favor to take to the campaign, because first of all, one of my biggest pet, I don't want to call it a pet peeve, because it's actually. I've always been fighting for health care.
Okay.
And the senator was asked a question about health care, and because there was a study that came out that said it cost more than, and how many trillions it would have cost, okay? I thought his answer was a bit ineffective, if not, it was truthful, but ineffective.
Okay.
And I think what he needs to do is, first of all, say, the economist who said it would cost that much more is just an economist with a theory. Another economist came out and said it would cost less, but better than both of those economists, what we know for a fact is that every other country in this world that has single payer or some sort of universal payer is much cheaper. So we don't have to ask for theories from economists any longer. We have proof. And I think he needs to be steadfast on that answer, because we have proof.
Yes,
Living real. Senator Turner, please do that for me. I hope to see you at Netroots in Missouri. Missouri, I think it is this year.
Yes.
And so I'm pretty sure you're going to be out there with the whole gang.
I will be there. Yes, I will.
So great. Thank you very much for being on air with us.
Thanks
and you have a wonderful day.
Politics done right. Thank you so much.
Great. Have a great day now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Shannon, and the other callers on the line, I'm coming to you, but Shannon is going to take my head off if she doesn't get a chance to do her thing.
Thank you, Egberto. Okay, let's take a brief look at weather around town. It is currently 76 degrees and plentiful sunshine today. Tonight, expect a few passing clouds and areas of patchy fog. Low tonight of 61 degrees. Partly cloudy skies Friday with a high of 81 degrees. Let's take a brief look at traffic around town. It's not too bad, but there's a few accidents to report, including on the Southwest Freeway inbound at Spur 527, which goes to Midtown and downtown. A heavy truck accident is affecting the right shoulder, backing up traffic to Westland. And on the East Freeway outbound at the East Tex Freeway, a heavy truck accident has been cleared from the exit ramp, but traffic remains backed up to Shepherd. Slow going on the Gulf Freeway inbound from Monroe to the South Loop and from Telephone to Allen Parkway. Also slow going on the Northwest Freeway inbound from Fairbanks, North Houston to West 34th. That's a look at your Houston area weather and traffic. I'm Shannon McCurdy, and you are listening to Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies on KPFT Houston 90.1.
Muchísimas gracias, hermana mía. Anyhow, let's go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny. You're line number one.
I love Nina Turner. I wish she had run for governor of Ohio.
Well, you know, she ran.
That idiot up there.
She ran for Secretary of State. She didn't quite make it because of what we do in these off-year elections, my friend. But I think she would have won. Look. Let me tell you how good that senator is. The Republican governor of Ohio named her onto one of his commissions. He named a liberal Democrat onto one of his commissions. That speaks well for the senator.
Yeah, but it doesn't speak well for the governor because the governor is a big you-know-what.
Yes, we do.
He's just doing that to placate the liberal side.
Anyway, what's up, my
if
friend?
If she had been governor for at least one term, I think that would have more than qualified her to be Bernie's running mate.
Yes.
I would have loved to see that. Then I would love to see all the Republicans get their panties in a knot.
Yeah,
you think they're hyped up now? Let me ask you the reason why I called.
Yes, sir.
I have to take issue with the first caller, and I love him to death. But
yes, Scott.
Given the combination of purposeful privatization of our schools and the overt, unapologetic misstatement of facts by both Republican Party candidates as well as some Democrats, Hillary being one, which go unchallenged by our lazy, frightened reporters, our so-called media, I think in spite of all that, we're seeing enough evidence of lots of populism rising up in our general population.
Yes.
The prime evidence being those long lines that hardly ever get reported on in the corporate media, those long lines for Bernie.
And you know what? That is why, you're absolutely correct on that, Johnny. And let me tell you what. First of all, what I do on this show and it is that, look, folks are going to vote the way they want, and they're going to believe what they want to believe, or not only believe what they want to believe, but believe what is put in front of them, and sometimes corroborated, sometimes not. So he is my I listen to what my audience has to say, and what I want to do is I want to encourage folks. I don't care who you vote for, Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. I'm going to keep talking the talk about what's necessary for the middle class, with the expectation that if doing this enough times, we will get through the people and encourage people and empower people to make a choice out of fear to make a choice out of reality and not fear. And that's fine. So my goal here as just one activist behind a microphone is to simply try to talk to folks and enlighten folks with whatever, or enlighten ourselves together, because there are times you guys come on the line and score me up as well. Come on, Johnny, you've scored me up on a few things yourself. So, that is what
but that's the difference between us and the other side. We keep it real. You can't trust the other side because they kiss each other's what.
But guess what, Johnny? But what we have to do is we have to earn their trust, brother. And that is what we do here. That's what this show does. That's why Republicans can call here and feel that they have a home as well. Because the idea is I can only make a difference. You can only make a difference if somebody first listens to you. Period.
Yeah, and speaking of activism and cooperation and all that, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm not putting you on the spot, okay? If you don't know the answer, fine, that's okay.
Sure.
Given your level of involvement with the Democrats, Are you aware of anything in the wings right now over the next few days where people can go to volunteer their time to be trained to be exit poll takers?
Oh, let me tell you, I don't
either
have
Galveston or Harris County.
Let me tell you this. I'm glad you asked that question. I don't have the specific answer for you, but I will get the specific answer for you, and I'll get it up on the website. I'll get it up on the Politics Done Right page, because I just love what you just said there, because there's a lot of shenanigans that are taking place and that will take place going forward in this election. Because, again, the middle class, if the middle class starts to wake up and decide that they are going to take their country back, believe me, it's going to be an avalanche. And, look, I feel it in my bones that it's going to happen. I hope it's this year. But, I mean, the thing about it is we're going to stick with the program, and we're going to stick pushing for folks to re-empower themselves. And by the way, folks, even though all our time is done with the pledging, I'm going to still put a plug in for KPFT. Nobody has asked me to do this or anything like this, but I know that this station has to become viable. We're not in fund drive anymore, folks, but please do remember to go to kpft.org and still continuously donate so we don't have to have those long 3-week stints. So please do that. Anyhow,
Egberto?
Yes, sir.
I want to leave you my email offline to Shannon, and then you get it from her before you leave.
Excellent.
And I want you to email me tonight with any of those details you referred to.
Oh, you got it,
because
Johnny.
I have some people, some students in Dickinson who want to get involved in the exit poll gathering.
You are so important to every movement, Johnny. And the most important thing you just said me, you have some students. We have to start this stuff from folks with a young age. Thank you very much, my brother. Shannon will take that from you and let me.
Put me on hold so I can get from my email.
Thank you, my friend. You have a great day. And let's go now to Sheaf. Come on, Sheaf. Come on in.
Hey, good afternoon.
How you doing, sir? Oh, wait, before you go, I have lines open, so I want to tell folks 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. I want to hear from you guys. I know you're listening, so give me a call and let me know if you want to say something quick. Time is kind of getting close, but I want to hear from you. Talk to me, Chief.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I love this show. I love the message and what you try to do for Houston and just Texas in general.
I appreciate that.
I just wanted to say, I just want to talk a little bit about how people are getting their information and their knowledge, the political system. I just want to encourage people who are listening, don't only get your knowledge about these candidates and just the political system, period, from just social media and the news that you see on public TV.
Right, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, and that is important. I mean, we have to get a bit smarter with the way we consume information. We have to remember. I mean, it is so bad in this country right now that if you go to the movies, you are being sold a political message and a commercial message. If you go and you sit down in a movie theater and you're watching a movie, there are people who pay to put certain computers for you to see. There are people who put product placements to influence you. There are politicians who put certain things within these programs for you to see. We're constantly being marketed to. So, I mean, what we have to do is educate ourselves so that we can understand. We can go to a movie, enjoy a movie that's trying to market something to us and not be influenced by that and still enjoy it. Watch the news and take out the pieces of the news that is informational and disregard the pieces that are not. I watch Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, CNBC, and all the BCs that you have out there. And the reason I do that is because, believe it or not, Fox News does have good news in between all the bad news. And MSNBC has a lot of bad news in between some of the good news. I mean, CNN has good news, bad news, it's about being an intelligent consumer of news, and I don't want to say intelligent consumer, being a smart consumer of news and being able to discern what is true, what is not, and what you don't know, and to investigate what you don't know. So, I mean, I think that is what's important. So what you're saying, sir, is extremely important. I do appreciate you calling. Please keep listening. Please keep telling folks about this station. Okay, my friend?
Oh, absolutely. And just real quick, if you want to find a good website for fact-checking your candidates and the people who are going to be, who could be the next president.
Tell our audience.
politifact.com, POLITIFACT.com. There's live fact checking whenever they do speeches or debates. It's a great website to go to.
Right.
Also, besides Senator Turner, we do have a representative from Texas, Marissa Marquez, who also supports Bernie Sanders. I just wanted to point that out from your earlier conversation.
Great. Well, look, I appreciate you. Go ahead, sir. Continue.
Oh, no problem. And also, last thing, the county clerk's office in Harris County is where you can go to register, sign up to be an exit poller.
Great. Look, you're a good man. Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful day. Now, let me take my call to William. Come on, William.
Egberto.
Talk to me, my brother.
I just turned your radio show on about 3 minutes ago, and I heard you had open lines. I tried to give you an email address where there's like a 35-minute interview.
Right.
This lady, that works for Bernie Sanders, she's put together people that are, phoning people to encourage them to vote for Bernie. And it's too big for her to send it to anybody, so you have to go to her website.
What's her website?
Let me give it to you here. Or do you want me to call back and give it to you off the air?
Yeah, call back and give it to me off the air, okay? That'll be best. Okay, William?
Yeah, no problem.
You have a great day, my friend. Folks, this has been a great show so far. We still have about a minute to go, so let me just say under a minute to go, I think is what Shannon is probably looking at me. Look, this country is your country. Okay, put it through real quickly. Okay, Rick, come on in real quick.
Hi, I just had some quick, simple math regarding Bernie Sanders.
Okay, say it real quickly, sir.
I make $60,000 a year. Bernie Sanders' health care plan is going to raise my taxes by 2.2%. That's an extra $1,300 a year. But then I no longer have to pay the $250 out of all 26 of my paychecks each year, which totals $6,500 that I'm currently paying. That's a net savings of over $5,000. What do you think I'm going to do with that? Invest in or deposit it in an offshore bank account?
Look, you're an intelligent person. Rick, I got to go because we're fixed for time. You're a very intelligent person. You don't only call this station and tell that to this station. You call every station and you let folks know the truth. Thank you very much for calling, my dear friend.
You're darn right I will.
Absolutely. Folks, this is Egberto Willies, and I'm out.